This is for all my neurodivergent friends. What I want to say is I'm sorry. We live in a world where people with vision, people with creativity, people that could not learn by sitting in class and obediently being forced to try to learn through short-term to long-term memory, that is actually an abnormality that has not yet been identified in psychology, that the ruminating mind of the subjective self is the mind of understanding. It's the mind of dissociating from the creative mind of observing and understanding through seeing, where the processes of learning are automated and effortless, where having conversations about life in a Socratic environment causes the visualization of the very topics and subjects through which you're speaking about. This is where creativity and genius originates. And this is a domain of the mind that we lose access to in part due to the sympathetic nervous system creating fear, creating confusion. Yet it's through the fear-based reactionary mind of the ego that all education is based, which prolongs the education experience, which indoctrinates people to think that knowledge is something that comes from books or other people, where we fail to notice that the people that create knowledge are just people that have greater levels of access to their capacity to spontaneously ideate, that thoughts that are original come from nothing, and it's part of an expansive pattern recognition through which all animals, including human beings in an objective state of observation, do naturally. And that for me, when people want to know, how did you learn how to do cars? It was through the epiphany of this process that I could look at them and take them apart visually, that I wouldn't take very long to learn, because when I learn things, especially recently pertaining to the mind, it's not just a matter of memorizing things as fact, but it's a matter of reality testing them within the universe of my mind and imagination, and it happens so effortlessly and so rapidly. The manner in which I understand the mind today was not something I had access towards during college, where learning through memorization and being tested is not the same as learning through experience or learning through visualization or pattern recognizing within your own life. And that's why even the field of psychology is training people through acquiring knowledge absent experience, and it doesn't translate to awareness of self. And so the subjective experience is what we are cataloging with modern psychology, failing to recognize the anomalous nature of it. That the subjective human experience is caused by the psychology of tunnel vision, an attachment to external threats where the human being is the external threat. And since the human being cannot dissociate from themselves, they project themselves as an external threat in all moments, living in anticipation of their own reactions to things like not enough, being broken, or having there be something wrong. And we look for and listen for confirmation of ourselves every moment on a subconscious level, keeping ourselves in tunnel vision and propagating the existence of ourselves in this objectified version of ourselves in a perpetual state of survival. And so our entire education system is inhibiting the development of the imagination, the creativity, the objective self, our communication, our communal nature, putting us into perpetual competition with ourselves and others in a way that ends up defining the human being, defining their own access to their own imagination. Or you think the confusion when you look at mathematical equations has something to do with intelligence, and it doesn't. That the development of your intelligence and creativity was eliminated through education in a world where the children that had already had their imagination were told they were learning disabled. No, they were indoctrination disabled. That the justice of an autistic person, the ground up thinking, is not neurodivergent. It's normal. The neurodivergent is the person that thinks through ruminating in words. And that is the reason why we have group thinking, as people try to reaffirm their fragile grip on reality. And that's why those people can't understand the physicists and the science and demonize it. That is why people like me have suffered. That is why neurodivergent people are traumatized and segregated and misunderstood, because the subjective mind can't understand the creative capacity of somebody with ground-up thinking, cannot authenticate the version of reality that's objective. And that's why we nail that Jesus is to the cross. That's why somebody like Martin Luther King gets unalived, simply because he saw that the arbitrary protein melanin should not be a way to judge a character. And then I live in a world where I still see Black America separate from America, where we would deny the existence of racism as we put children in cages, where we want to build a wall to Mexico, but not to Canada. Why would that be? Why would we be in denial of the ramifications of the trauma of history, where every white person needs a therapist and a handful of pills and wants to talk about how their parents ruined them and their parents were ruined by their parents, but at the same time says self-determination for the Black American, and put the Native American on a reservation as Wells Fargo collects interest on $1 trillion in mortgage debt, and white people say they're real Americans. And the American flag used to be a symbol of a melting pot. It's now a symbol of hatred around the world, a symbol of entitlement, narcissistic exceptionalism that was the basis of using the Bible as a justification for the demonization of other cultures, cultures that lived in balance with nature, that respected the buffalo. And so no, you're not neurodivergent. You're gifted and normal. In a world where children like us were told we were broken, put on medication, because this system of indoctrination never made sense. And your heart breaks because you see everything, where everyone else can put their head down and run towards that success as aircraft carriers deliver democracy and peace around the world. And so if you have a problem with the way the world is going, and you were told you were learning disabled because you're creative and you see things, just understand there's nothing wrong with you, that you're not the neurodivergent. Humanity is neurodivergent as it prepares to cut every tree and fill the ocean with plastic to sell you diabetes. And $1 billion company won't go and clean up their own bottles that are floating around the ocean. And climate change is a lie? No, it's not you, it's them.